Generations Bank has been serving the financial needs of the Finger Lakes region since 1870. Generations combines the best of modern banking with dedication to the local community. Visit them at mygenbank.com. Generations Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into Bills Weekly here on FingerLakes1.com. A Victory Wednesday. Because of the holidays, hopefully everybody had a good Christmas. Obviously, unwrapped an early gift with a Bills victory against the Chargers in Week 16. Paul Russo, Jim Sancropi, and Kyle Evans here with you. We'll touch on that road win in Los Angeles for the Bills. Take a look at the new playoff picture as we had some mini chaos occur in the AFC this weekend, and preview the Week 17 home finale against the New England Patriots. So, guys, welcome in. How was Christmas for you guys?
Yeah,
Solid.
it's pretty good.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, that Bills win,
Scary.
yeah, it was, I guess it was like a Christmas present. It was like getting underwear, like you needed it, but you don't post it on Instagram.
Right.
It was ugly and scary, and, the Chargers just aren't that good, but whatever, the Bills won.
Yeah.
Yeah, turnovers killed the Bills. They had 3 turnovers, a couple fumbles, Josh interception. But at this time of the year, all that matters is winning the games, and as we see every week, it's a week-to-week league. Anything can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think based on the way the AFC, like I said, it ended up being a chaotic week in the AFC. For example, and we'll get more into it, right? The Bills jumped from 8 to 6 in the playoff standings because of everything that went down. So, I wouldn't go maybe the underwear route, Jim. Maybe socks more appropriate. Get a little bit of the show, I would say, in that case. But the playoff of Kyle, you gotta take it week to week at this point, especially and just win ugly and get it done, especially at this point. 24-22, and I didn't quite expect it to be that close. I didn't expect the Chargers to cover, if you look at it from the bet side of things, because I did the old coaching swap out, and the guys might be slightly more fired up. But to be that close, to be that in earshot, if you will, definitely it caught me off guard anyway.
I thought they were going to lose when Cook fumbled that final time. I thought that was it.
Yeah, that was the first time in weeks we've kind of, I guess, had the quote-unquote worry about James Cook. I mean, he had 2 fumbles, and excuse me. Yeah, obviously the last one was, I guess, the more hair-raising one, obviously, just given the timing of it and the way the game was playing out at that point. Let's get in.
Still, they ran for 105 yards.
Yeah.
Some of that was Allen, too. But, the running game was solid if they just held on to the ball.
Yeah. Let's get into some of that stuff here. Josh Allen, 15 of 21 for 237 yards, a touchdown, interception. Also had 5 carries for 15 yards and 2 touchdowns. James Cook, 20 carries for 70 yards. Gabe Davis. Exactly. We have found Gabe Davis. Take him off the milk carton. 4 receptions, 130 yards, and a touchdown. Your leading receiver. And then you have to go into the deep pocket here. 85 yards to the next receiver, Khalil Shakir, with 3 receptions and 45 yards. And then you get to Stephon Diggs with 5 receptions for 29 yards. So it's a bit of again, weird more than a couple weeks at this point involving Diggs. This is now I think dating back like 5 weeks. He has yet to, I think, get above like 40 yards or something like that. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, he hasn't gone over 50 yards in 4 of his last 5 games. The only time he did go over is in that Philly overtime loss. Yeah. And he hasn't scored a touchdown in 3 straight and 5 of the last 7. So, yeah, he's kind of like disappeared after that early season where he just, had 100-yard games. Seemed like every week. And now with the new offensive coordinator, it seems like he's kind of like disappeared. So, I don't know what to take away from that. Even the targets are a little bit down, so I don't know. But it's nice to see Gabe Davis, finally step up, and hopefully they can get some more from Diggs down the stretch here.
Yeah. And then I didn't put down my stat sheet that I use anyway because it was just so small, but go back to something we talked about a little bit, the tight ends, and Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, I combined for 4 receptions for I think about 27 yards or something like that. Like, just non-existent from them as well.
The offense as a whole is not high flying.
No.
So they're not clicking on all cylinders or whatever, catchphrase you want to use. I don't know if that's a concern because they won. We've been wanting them to run the ball more. If you commit to the run, you're obviously not going to have those big passing numbers. But this isn't like the Bills' offense from a couple of years ago when they were, on the upswing. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't look like a Super Bowl caliber offense.
Yeah, I actually have a stat. So obviously, if you guys didn't know, Josh Allen leads the league in touchdowns with 40. The next closest is Jalen Hurts with 35. But Josh Allen has accounted for 83% of his team's touchdowns this season. So that's a pretty wild stat. I mean, the last few weeks we've seen him get a lot of rushing touchdowns. He had 2 over the weekend. So yeah, you need to see some more from like Diggs. Diggs can't go 3 games without scoring. He's your number 1 receiver. And I mean, some of these defenses that they've been facing, you would think he'd be more open and get more yards, and that just hasn't been the case.
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing bad to say about Josh Allen. MVP candidate. Nobody talks about him. They talk about Brock Purdy or Lamar Jackson. Imagine the Bills without Josh Allen.
Yeah, what's crazy is Lamar has 24 touchdowns. Josh Allen has 40, and Lamar's only accounted for 55% of his team's touchdowns.
Right.
But because their record, he's considered the MVP.
Yep.
But if you look at the Monday night game, that Baltimore defense forced 5 turnovers. If it weren't for the defense, they probably wouldn't have blown out the 49ers.
Right.
So I get the point. You think they're winning because of Lamar, and obviously Lamar is a big part of it. But over their last 10 games, they're 9-1, and Lamar has 16 touchdowns in 10 games. So I just don't really see how he's your most valuable.
Well, allow me to get on my soapbox to say Myles Garrett MVP, because we need to show some love to defensive players every now and then.
Well, that'll never happen.
Different podcasts for a different time. Hey, speaking of defense, though, I do want to talk about them a little bit because for the second game in a row, Taylor Rapp is your leading tackler, so throw that up on your bingo card with 9 tackles. But this was about, it's been a while since we've seen, I think, a lot of pressure get to a quarterback from the Bills in the way that it did, numerically speaking, the way it did on Sunday. The team had 5 total sacks. Terrell Dodson, Rasul Douglas, and Poona Ford had a sack each, and Ed Oliver had 2 sacks in addition to his 4 tackles. So, I mean, obviously, it's tough when you have a tight score like that, but, what that tells me at least is, the front end, once again, this team stepped up on defense and at the very least provided enough pressure that, one, you had Easton Stick just maybe not able to handle it every now and then, but 2, and it's more important to me as you look, say, in these final 2 games, is I think prep-wise for these other teams coming up, obviously the Patriots this weekend and the Dolphins the week after for the final week, they're probably going to be more locked into, obviously, the edge stuff and, having to compensate with whether it's stunts or, you keep somebody in motion and I forget the technical term of it, but, when the tight end or a running back stays in for 5 seconds to block before stepping out in that situation. So I was really impressed, like I said, with the pressure. And for me, the one surprise was Rasul Douglas. I mean, rare. It's not, I guess, rare in the sense, but, in today's game, you don't see a ton of secondary guys get sacks anymore.
Well, the defense shut it down at the last possession. That was good to see. And, the defense played pretty good all game. But, it was Easton Stick and the Chargers. They lost by 1 million the week before. Nobody's going to remember this game a couple weeks from now when the playoffs start. It was just another win. But it seems like with this Bills team, every time you start to think, okay, we got it, which was the case after crushing the Cowboys, and beating the Chiefs the last 2 weeks, and then you let the Chargers be in the game late with your season on the line. But it was a typical trap game. Chargers had a bye week. we're coming off not a bye week, but an extended break because they played Thursday night the week before. The Bills had to go all the way across the country to the West Coast, coming off, the biggest home win of the season against the Cowboys. So it was a typical trap game, and that stuff does come true, and the Bills didn't fall victim to the trap. They won the game.
Yeah, in the first quarter, I thought it was probably their worst quarter of the year. They didn't look prepared. Remember, they fell behind 10-0 in this game, so they had to come back, and they held on. And I was going to add to what you said a few minutes ago. Shout out to the defense. 2 of the last 3 games, they've closed out games and done it the right way. Remember, in the beginning of the year, they had trouble in one-score games. They let Mac Jones drive down the field, Russell Wilson, Jalen Hurts. So, yeah, it was nice to see the defense, close out a game.
Yeah, let's transition over here then to discuss a little bit of that playoff picture. So, as I mentioned, a bit chaotic in the AFC this past weekend. The Colts lost to Atlanta, which I was in Spain over on the betting side of things on that one because I just physically cannot trust the Falcons, and apparently I cannot trust the Colts in that sense. But it pays dividends off for the Bills as well because they were able to leap from 8-6. That's also on the heels of the Texans losing and the Steelers and the Bengals going at it head-to-head as well to get the week going. So Buffalo finds themselves now a game up of what is now the 7 through 10 tiebreaker amongst teams, and sees themselves also at least in the exact same as 1 game behind the Browns in 5th. But also, the Dolphins have clinched a playoff spot. They're the only team in the AFC East at the moment to do so, but the Bills still within reach of the division going into this week. So a lot still, there's a lot still on the table for the Bills, in my opinion.
Because right now they need to win out to host a playoff game. It's going to be tough to go on the road throughout the playoffs. So this week, the Patriots at home, it should be a revenge game after what happened earlier this season in the Foxborough, and then down to Miami in a game that if the Ravens beat the Dolphins this week, that game will be for the division title, and also either way, it's going to be for a home game in the playoffs.
Yeah, and the Bills can actually clinch a playoff spot this Sunday. If they beat the Patriots, the Seahawks need to beat the Steelers in Seattle, and the Chiefs need to beat Cincinnati in KC. So they could actually clinch at least a wild card spot this weekend, and then next week could be for the division.
But if they lose either one of these next 2 games, there's like a 90% chance they won't be at home for that first round playoff game.
Yeah, the simulator here on the New York Times.
That is a really cool thing, isn't
yeah,
it? Man, I spent some
every
time
week.
on that.
Yeah.
That's where I got this prep from.
So it says if they lose to the Patriots but beat the Dolphins, they still have a 96% chance to be a wild card team.
Right.
So.
But not a home team.
Yep, but
they
not a
wouldn't
home
host that game.
Yep.
So to me, you want to get that one home game. You don't want to make the entire road to the Super Bowl be on the road. I mean, the Bills can win on there. I don't think the Bills are necessarily a better home than away team. They've done fine on the road, especially winning at places like Kansas City. They went to the Eagles and went to overtime.
Yep.
But to go on the road for that many consecutive games to get to the Super Bowl would be a tall task. You want that at least that one last home game to kind of slingshot you into the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah, and if they do win the division, they will be the 2 seed because KC, even if they went out, would be 11-6, but Buffalo has the tiebreaker because of the head-to-head matchup. So basically, if they win the next 2 and Miami loses the next 2, they're the 2 seed.
So we're big Ravens fans.
Yep.
For this week, if down the road we could see an AFC Championship game where the Bills are going to Baltimore.
Yep. Man, did they look really good Monday night.
Yeah.
The defense was just swarming all over the field.
Yep. I do think, though, that I do really believe that the Bills are a better matchup for to beat the Ravens than the 49ers were. Mostly from the offensive side. I think sometimes things can open up for the Josh Allen and the Bills against a better defense. And they've shown it this year with some of the points they've put up against better defenses.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting when you actually look because you have the Browns, like I mentioned, they're in the 5 spot, 10-5. And, at that point above them, you have the Jags, who are the South leader at 8-7, the Chiefs, the West leader at 9-6. And it's one of those things where, yeah, I know you'd like to get that road or home game, at least one of them, but, if you're pinned on the road and, look, I don't know if you go into Arrowhead and win twice in a year in that situation. But if you somehow get lucky enough to go to Jacksonville, in mid-January for your first game of the playoffs, it's not the worst thing in the world, in my opinion.
I'll take the Chiefs right now. I mean, they got killed by the Raiders.
Right.
I mean, they're not the same Chiefs. And the Bills, handled them. I think they can win twice. And I go back to that London game against Jacksonville. If the Bills could have just won that game, they would be in so much better position right now.
Oh yeah, I mean
they would have flip flopped with the Jags in the stand. Bills would be like 4 seed right now.
Yep.
So that was just a huge loss. Back in October over on another continent, and the Bills have been facing an uphill climb as far as playoff seedings have gone ever since.
Yeah.
Because we talk about it every week how they don't have any tiebreakers.
How about the fact that the Raiders didn't complete a pass after the first quarter?
And still
won.
Them.
And KC has scored 21 or less in 9 of their 14 games or something, or 15 games. It's crazy. They struggle to score points.
The
And Travis Kelce
don't know what to do.
Yeah, and Travis Kelce just doesn't look like the same player. I mean, he's still good, still great.
I think the rest of the receiving core is so bad that
Yeah.
you can scheme against Kelce. I mean, at least whether
Drop
it's
balls, so a lot of drop balls.
I mean, the Chiefs,
That's true,
the
he has
Chiefs
dropped
number
a few.
one, the Chiefs' true number one wideout, in theory, is really a wideout 3.
Yeah, who's
mean,
their number one?
it's just-
Kadarius Toney.
No, I mean, I think if you go by
Valdez-Scantling.
traditional build, it's Valdez-Scantling is their number one, but
and then there's
like I
that-
said, he's really like a wideout 3,
Rice has been their best.
right, but he's like a slot build,
Right.
so he kind of fits in that wideout 2 spot more than anything,
And Pacheco's been out.
right?
Jarek McKinnon went on IR.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if I'm a playoff team right now, I wouldn't really mind going to KC as compared to previous years.
I just view it as you go into a pretty harsh environment in mid-January. Now, for a team like the Bills, that doesn't weather-wise, that doesn't make a much of a difference because obviously you're Buffalo, right? And you're playing in what you're used to without the snow, more or less, at that point. It's
Chiefs
just
hasn't
been really
clinched.
cold.
Chiefs haven't clinched either.
No, I mean the only
Yeah,
two
there's a
teams.
scenario
There's
where-
only 2 teams that have clinched in the AFC so far, and that's the Ravens and the Dolphins at 1 and 2, and that's it.
It's not going to happen, but if the Chiefs lose out and the Raiders win out, the Raiders can win the division.
Yeah.
It's still alive.
I subscribe to that.
Who do the Chiefs play this week? Do we know?
That's a good question.
Can't remember.
Cincinnati.
Oh, well,
Uh,
that's not an easy win.
No.
And then they get the Chargers in the final week in LA.
Well, I don't know, man. The Chiefs. I don't.
You can't
Everybody
trust them.
thinks if you got Mahomes, you got a chance. But if Mahomes has nobody to throw to at all,
I mean, I'll go ahead and say it. I said this Monday. I'll say it again here. You can say what you want about the receiving core, and I as well, and you'd be fair and justified too, like we are. But at the same token, Mahomes has not looked good either. He is doing some. There are certain throws that he has made now in the past couple weeks that.
starting to get frustrated. I think.
Well, but that's what I'm getting at, where it's like we, and myself included, would ridicule Josh Allen for the same stuff, and we aren't doing it with Mahomes, but we should be doing it with Mahomes. That interception, the pick 6, is an inexcusable throw. It is that Mahomes had. I know we're going down a different.
It is,
route
but
here,
like I said, I think it's a lot of his frustration. I think that if you gave Mahomes, Gabe Davis, and Diggs that instead of these stiffs that he's throwing to, that he'd have different results. But
I mean,
and I'm not saying Mahomes is
would
better
imagine.
than Allen or anything. I'm just saying that it's shocking how bad
Right.
those wide receivers are in Kansas City.
No, that's
They don't run
we agree with
routes.
that,
Like,
yeah.
You watch every game, a guy will stop short when he could come up to a softer spot in the zone, and so Mahomes is expecting him to do that, but he doesn't, and the ball goes, 3 feet wide. Or,
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not a Chiefs podcast, but I wouldn't be shocked to see the Bills and the Chiefs are both 9-6 right now.
Right.
And the Bills, well, I'm under the assumption that the Bills will beat the Patriots this week, but the Patriots went out to Denver and got a win.
Yeah, this game feels a little more scary than the Chargers game was because
but
they've already lost to them. Bailey Zappi's better than Mac Jones.
my only,
It's
but
for
I
sure not even a
feel
debate.
like there's a revenge factor in this one. It is at Orchard Park. I feel good about the Bills getting this win, but you can never get too comfortable in the NFL.
And the Patriots did their best to lose that game against Denver, in all fairness, as I call it. I don't know. I'll go toe-to-toe with you, Kyle, on the whole entire Bailey Zappi versus Mac Jones
Mac
thing.
Jones is awful. One of the worst I've ever seen.
I mean, I don't disagree, but like,
Bailey Zappi's better.
if you think
They're
Bailey's
winning more with them too. They won 2 of their last 3 and only lost to the Chiefs.
I know.
by 10.
I'm just saying numbers tell me otherwise.
And they ruined their draft position by winning 2 of their last 3.
Yeah.
And if Bill does leave, he's like, whatever, who cares?
Right.
Well, I think that's kind of a good segue to just kind of get into the Week 17 game then, shall we? The home finale in Orchard Park, at least for the regular season. Patriots at the Bills, Sunday, 1 p.m. You can catch it on CBS if you aren't there. New England, 4-11, following a Week 16 win at Denver, as we mentioned, 26-23, off the leg of Chad Ryland. Also, like I said, did his best bomb impersonation there by doinking it literally where the mic is.
Mm-hmm.
So, Bailey Zappi, 99 for 156, 975 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Ramondre Stevenson back. He's also the leading rusher, 156 carries for 619 yards and 4 touchdowns. Demario Douglas, your leading receiver there. 44 receptions for 517 yards. No touchdowns on the year for him. So,
What's Vegas think?
Vegas tells us that the Bills are currently a 12-point favorite with over under a 40.5. Your weather at the moment, 33 degrees and cloudy. So, kind of typical end of year Buffalo shenanigan weather there, I'd say, outside of some flakes in the air. But kind of a similar situation, like you said, Kyle, and I kind of agree with you to a certain degree to last week with the Chargers that the Bills find themselves in terms of double digits, maybe. I don't know if it's a full-fledged trap game. That's where I kind of lean more on the Jim side of the debate here because of the revenge element of it. So, I don't know. This is an interesting matchup because it's just a classic rivalry in the sense where you're going to have a football weather scenario, and it's just the last time we see Bill Belichick in Orchard Park, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good news here is the Bills are 6-2 at home. Like you guys said, it's revenge time. And before that loss earlier this year, the Bills have had lots of success against the Patriots over the last few seasons, winning 6 of 8, including that wild playoff game where they didn't punt a single time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think they should win this game. But like we've seen across the league all year, you just never know. I mean, the Giants almost went to Philly and beat the Eagles, and Tommy DeVito got benched. So it's just like you just never know.
I wouldn't feel comfortable laying the 12. So
Yeah.
that much.
No.
But I do think they'll win. It scares me. I don't know if they'll cover. I don't know how close it'll be. But we'll see what happens.
I would like to see Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, and Dalton Kincaid all over 60 yards receiving in that win. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
What would be the prop line on that, hypothetically?
Well, the
Maybe
way
nuts.
it's been going, it should be about 10 million to 1 because it hasn't happened all season, I don't think.
All right, no.
An offense where we're spreading it around, where they're moving the ball consistently, drive after drive, through the air and on the ground, and everybody's sharing in the wealth. I mean, the way it's going, you can just hear the minute that the Bills lose this year in the playoffs, Stephon Diggs will be calling for, out. So I would just get this week a chance to get right, to get everybody happy, have a fun game, win by 15-20, and spread the ball around. Diggs a touchdown, Gabe Davis 80 yards, Kincaid a touchdown. Let's see it, Josh Allen, like 300 yards passing, that type of week is what I'd like to see. And then you get ready to go down to Miami and maybe play for a division championship.
Yeah, that Baltimore-Miami game kicks off at the same time as the Bills-Patriots.
Oh, wow.
Boy.
So at 4 o'clock, we should know where things stand.
It's crazy they don't flex that Baltimore-Miami game to Sunday night because that is the game of the week. I mean, you're talking about the two top teams in the AFC.
Yeah, who gets the Sunday?
Proverbially, anyway, yeah.
Oh, it's Packers
Right.
Vikings
Yeah.
in Minnesota.
Yeah. Nice. Delicious.
Yeah, they had a chance to flex it out, and the NFL said no. They announced that like the other day.
I wonder why.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's disgusting. Do we know jersey situation yet? I just realized something. Bills haven't had their retro game yet this year.
Yeah, I don't think we know yet. We should know later what they're wearing. But I would assume they would wear maybe blue.
I want the standing buffalo. That's what I want for this game.
Yeah, they haven't wore those.
I'm just saying, they haven't done it this year. They usually do it once a year. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe this is the game, final home game of the regular season.
Right. Never know.
Hopefully not the final home game.
Right.
Hopefully one more at least. But yeah, geez, survive the Chargers. Now they got another game against the Patriots that they should win. You know, hopefully we're sitting here next week talking about that win and previewing the game of the year at Miami on January 7th.
Yeah.
First game of 2024.
It's so crazy how much things have changed. I remember when they were 6-6, we were sitting here saying, man, can they just make the final games interesting and at least have a chance week 18? And now here they are before week 18, sitting in a playoff spot, winning 4 of their last 5, right? 4 or 5 or 3 4.
I think part of that too is right. And it goes both ways here. You know, everybody gets back to the mean, quote unquote, their own mean, right? Like to go back to just look at the teams that were in the playoff picture and above, right? Colts, Texans, Bengals, like everything kind of came back to roost for them a little bit in certain ways this past weekend, right? And maybe the past couple weeks overall when you think about it. And, you know, for Buffalo where, right, we were talking about them at 6-6 and like what the hell, you know, what's their choice? What path are they going to take? Well, they've played better the past few weeks in the grand scheme of it.
Well, it went into this, the schedule showed at Eagles, bye week, at Chiefs and Cowboys, and at that point, the Bills were not looking good.
Right.
They absolutely needed to win 2 or 3 of those games, and that seemed unlikely at the time, but they did, and the one game they lost was in overtime.
Yeah.
And so, like I say, off the top of the show, at that point, you're thinking, all right, the Bills are back to where they should be, and then they go out and beat the Chargers by 2, and you're like, oh, boy, man, I don't know. So, I don't know. It's every week, got to wait and see. So we'll see here, New Year's Eve, Patriots in Buffalo. Would love to see a double-digit win. Don't want to see it close.
Right.
And things have shifted because of the quarterbacks, too, in the AFC. I mean, you look at a lot of these teams, they've been running backups. I mean, the Texans, C.J. Stroud's been out 2 weeks. The Steelers went with Mason Rudolph, their third stringer. Jake Browning is, going for Cincinnati right now. The Jags have lost 4 in a row. Trevor Lawrence keeps getting hurt every week. The Colts, were due for a loss eventually because they were hot. Broncos are finally cooling off.
The Browns, Joe Flacco time.
Yeah, so things have shifted because I think some of the quarterbacking is not very good.
Yeah, by my count, just in the AFC alone, of the 16 AFC teams, there's only 5 teams still that with their Week 1 starters playing, and that's the Ravens, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Denver Broncos.
There's a chance Jacksonville doesn't even make the playoffs because Houston can jump them and win the division and knock Jacksonville out.
That's
Jacksonville and Houston are both 8-7. It just so happens that Jacksonville's the 4 seed right now.
Or even the Colts 8-7. They're all tied still.
Yep. Which is another reason the Bills got to win this week. If they lose, they're 9-7, and those 8-7 teams that win are going to be 9-7, and so then the Bills will go to Miami needing to win maybe to get into the playoffs. So you can't. And you know what? If the Bills can't beat the Patriots at home, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs, honestly, and they don't deserve. They're certainly not a Super Bowl contender. But I think they put themselves into the position where they can be a Super Bowl favorite, or at least an AFC championship game favorite pick. And but don't blow it this week against the Patriots.
Yep.
All right, let's get to prediction time. I'll go ahead and take first here. I do think the Bills win. Do they cover the 12? I don't think so, but it's not going to be by much. I think they get the win 24-14 over the Patriots.
I take it.
I'm going to go with 27-13. Bills win.
we all were wrong on the Chargers.
Yeah.
With our predictions, I think we were predicting something like 34-10 or stuff like
Definitely in the 30s, I had.
Yeah, but I think this is a huge, huge, huge game for Buffalo. They're at home. I mean, the whole season's on the line. You're 12-point favorites. I don't think they fall into the trap. I think that they just crush the Patriots. 37-13, let's say.
So kind of like that playoff game. What was that, 2 years ago now?
Yeah. Where just from the start, Bills are going to just run over them. It's not going to be close the whole game. Bills Nation can relax, enjoy their New Year's Eve, and get ready for the Miami Dolphins on January 7th.
It'd be so nice. The Bills crush the Patriots, get in the locker room, find out Miami lost.
Yep.
And, get ready already for Week 18, win the division.
Yeah. It'll be perfect. Nice, like you said, Jim. Perfect way to go into 2024.
For Bills fans.
Crazy. So, I suppose on that note, we'll head on out for this week. So, kind of like this week, no show Monday, but we'll be back in on Tuesday for Bills Weekly. Obviously, New Year's Day we won't be in. So
January 2nd, Tuesday.
We'll be back in and ready to go. Hopefully with a victory Tuesday. I think we've said that once this year. So, hopefully that is the case. So, Jim, Kyle, appreciate you guys as always jumping on.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Thanks for listening and watching, everybody. You can listen to Bills Weekly or watch it here on FingerLakes1.com, the FL1 YouTube channel, and major podcasting platforms including Spotify or Amazon Music. We'll be back, like I said, next Tuesday for Bills Weekly. Until then, let's go Buffalo, and Happy New Year, everybody.